Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the final 2020 Wonder Grant presentation, and we're happy you could all join us. Over the last few weeks, we've had presentations from some amazing teams. If this is the first presentation you're attending, you might be asking, what is a Wonder Grant? At One Workplace, we're curious about the thinkers and makers, the research and insights, the purposes, culture shifts, and trends that impact spaces where we work, learn, heal, and innovate. We believe that when we partner with pioneers, experts, and disruptors, and when we question the status quo, we do our best work in our mission to help shape the human experience and make built environments more impactful. We introduced the Wonder Grant in 2019 to support exploration and research by the architecture and design community into unique topics of interest and passion, and we have awarded 9 Wonder Grants since then. 6 grants were awarded in 2020. And I'm Albert Hope, one of One Workplace's creative leads. I'm honored to introduce one of the 2020 grant teams to you, API. As one of the support coaches for this team, along with my colleague Amy Neva, we watched their work progress over the past 9 months, and we are certain their insights will shed some light on the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the design industry. API's focus was to diversify our profession through sharing knowledge and expertise in the practice of interior design as a career option to young students of color within disadvantaged communities. Before I introduce the team, I just wanted to share a few logistics. At the end of API's presentation, we'll have a brief Q&A period moderated by my fellow Wonder Grant coach and colleague, Amy Neva. The Q&A function will be open throughout the presentation, so please feel free to submit your questions there. We'll also be sending out the recording of today's presentation within 24 hours, and it will also be available in the Wonder Grant section of the One Workplace website with all the other grant teams, if you can't see it throughout the entire session. Now, to share her insights from ID for Me, please meet Cindy Malay from API.
Thank you so much, Albert and Amy and One Workplace. We at API and the entire team want to thank you guys very much for allowing us this wonderful opportunity. For those of you who don't know API, we are a woman-owned business in Mountain View and have been creating interior design in the Bay Area for over 27 years. So welcome to ID for Me. And this was a program that we created to really speak to increasing diversity in our community. So my slide is not advancing, so bear with me for a second. There we go. Thank you. So we wanted to create and explore, learn, and design, and we really targeted high school students in our local community. As you could take a look around in our community now, diversity is a bit lacking in the interior design arena. And unfortunately, creative fields tend to lose funding, and exposure to these creative fields is often lacking, especially in diverse and disadvantaged regions and with people of color. So that was our purpose. Our mission was to create an after-school program with the goal of diversifying our profession, and specifically towards community of color, and sharing knowledge and expertise about the practice of interior design. We know that there are barriers towards diversity in our community, and this is just a small way that we could help change things and have an impact. So we had our strategy: provide exposure and a career to interior design, creating an after-school program. We wanted to engage a Title I school. And a Title I school really just means that they are in a disadvantaged area and they're primarily students of color. With that comes some challenges that I'll go into later in terms of how we create a program for them. We also wanted to offer a summer paid internship for students. So we're in the process of doing that now. And we wanted to share our curriculum and the lessons with you, the design community, because really this is kind of a call to action for all of us to participate and educate the next generation. And we wanted to inspire students to pursue a career in interior design. So we had a process, like we all do in life, and we defined our goals and our mission statement. We did community outreach to find a school that we could share this program with. We learned a lot of things about developing a memorandum of understanding. I'll explain that later. And also created flyers to get teacher engagement and student engagement. We went through background checks to be able to volunteer and even provide this type of program. We selected our students, and then we put together an intro program. So some of the things we created was some flyers to help explain to schools and teachers what the program was all about and how we might be able to share this program with their school. And then we created a flyer for the students to get them excited and to join. We did find a school, East Palo Alto Academy, and the principal there was just an absolute joy, and she really supported creative fields and was just so excited to be able to offer this to her students. And we had a nice diversity group of students that joined our class. We developed a curriculum. The curriculum really involved one intro session and then 8 classes. Yes, we tried to teach interior design in 8 classes, with the opportunity for them to design a project of their own at the end. So our first session was really an opportunity to get everyone excited and explain what we were going to do. We also created swag bags, really just some tools of the trade, some pens and trace paper and fabrics and colored pencils. And who doesn't like free stuff? So they thoroughly enjoyed all of that. Our first class was an introduction to interior design. We also wanted to get to know the students and really what interior design would mean to them and how design impacts the spaces that we create and how it makes you feel. So the first session, we asked them to do a design exercise. Some of you might know this one. It's called Squiggly Birds. And you're asked to actually just draw a squiggly line on the paper. And then you're asked to add a beak and feathers and a dot for an eye and create birds. And these are some sketches that the students came up with. I think they did a pretty good job. Our next session was design basics. Yes, one class to talk about design basics, the principles and the elements of design and the building blocks that we all use to create our fields. For those of you who might remember, I think this took a few months to go through when we were in college, but we did it in one class, and it was a lot of fun to go through that and remind ourselves, what are those principles of design? At the end of the session, each class, we would actually do a design activity at home with the students. And this particular student had to do 2 compositions. And he decided to do 2 very different compositions. One where he used natural light, lots of natural materials and texture and warmth to create a wonderful, cozy composition. And you can see even with the shadows that he created by the use of the natural light really added to the composition. The second one that he did was really more of an example of a work environment. So it's artificial light, he even has pencil shavings, and really all the tools that would go into a work environment. I have to say we were quite impressed at the end of just 2 classes that a student was able to grasp these concepts so quickly, and he was quite inspiring. The next session, we went through the vision and the journey, talking about how users are impacted by the design and understanding how to program information and journey map specific places. And they were going to use these tools later on in the designing of their own project. So the other thing that we did, in addition to the class design exercise at home, is we asked experience questions. And this is really more to have an opportunity for the students to think about what it feels when you are in certain environments. So these are just some samplings of questions that we asked. What place makes you feel energized or curious or happy? And I'm going to mention this student as we go through. So look at the backyard image on the lower right. So this student, the same one actually that did the compositions we looked at earlier, was passionate about landscape design. And so he sketched his backyard and what he had created in his space, and that's what made him feel happy. The next session was finishes, furnishings, and form. So one of the challenges was that we had to do all this program virtually. And so it was important to find a way to interact since we weren't able to be in person. So a lot of the curriculum that we developed was really based on having discussion with all of the students. And you can see in one of these slides, you know, what is this space intended for? And how does it make you feel? And so it was important to go through that. And we did that with each session to have that interaction and engagement. We then went through a mid-session survey just to make sure that we were doing everything that we could do to meet the students' needs. And if we needed to change something or modify it, we could. The one thing that came very clear from everyone was, gosh, we wish we could do this in person. And we certainly agree. Maybe next year, or definitely next year. Session 5 was our guest speaker, and we had Laura Guido-Clark come in. And I'm sure, as most of you know, she is wonderful when it comes to expressing color and how color impacts the environment. The students were very engaged by this, and we actually gave them a lot of other websites to take a look at to further their understanding of how color impacts us. We also introduced our project for the students, which was they're going to design a restaurant. So the next session was really to go through the project. So we gave each student some furniture options. We also did a standard model in 3D so that they could have that as their inspiration. We gave it a patio so that those who were interested in landscape design could also express their views. And we also taught them how to use trace paper. So yes, by hand, they went through and did a floor plan. The next session, we went through all the material pieces. So furnishings and finishes and lighting and all the different parts and pieces that go into creating a magical space. And then the last session, they had to present their space. We had gone through with them during the different sessions, even through the week, doing one-on-ones with each of them individually so that they could have our expertise to help them through the process. So I'll go through their final projects. So the first student wanted a tropical boho vibe. I think he accomplished this. This is actually the same student that did the compositions and also had the backyard as his happy place. And so you can see tropical and plants were very important to him, and landscape design was one of the things that he was quite interested in doing. So that came across in his interior design. The next student really captured more of a classic design, warmth, high contrast, more classic materials. And she really wanted a restaurant that was more of a formal sit down, not a coffee shop. The next student wanted a sandwich shop, something a little bit more casual for friends and family to hang out, a lot more texture and pattern, and really expressed, I think, the casual vibe that he was going for. And then the other student wanted a coffee shop, a little bit more on the moody side, with darker materials. And he found this ombre wall covering that he just absolutely fell in love with, and put it on every wall. We did a final session survey to figure out if we had kind of met their needs and if interior design was of interest to them. And that one student I keep mentioning, well, he decided after wanting to go into landscape design that he's changing his major and is going to pursue interior design. Warms my heart. As I had mentioned before, our principal, Amika at East Palo Alto Academy, was just fabulous during all of this and quite supportive. And we are doing an internship. So we've invited all of the students that participated to fill out an application. And I think we're going to be able to have them actually come to our office now that things are dying down a little bit with our pandemic. And we'll be super excited to have a student in our midst. And then the big thing is we want to share this with everyone. We want you to embrace the curriculum that we've started, develop a program in your own community, and really support interior design and help students that are disadvantaged and of color to really diversify our profession. So connect with us and follow us and ask us to share, and we will. Thank you.
Cindy, thank you so much for sharing all of the inspirational work you've done. Speaking from personal experience, I know I would have loved to have had exposure to this type of program when I was in high school myself. I'm sure lots of you have tons of questions. I'm going to pass this over to Amy, who will help moderate our Q&A section.
Thanks, Albert. I'm so excited that you had this opportunity today, Cindy, to present the ID for Me program. So you've given us a lot to process, and I'm super excited to see where this program is going to take our industry. So we've gotten quite a few questions. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
In planning the program, what were some of the challenges that you were faced with? I know you mentioned Zoom and doing it virtual, which has been a challenge for many of us, but what other things did you face?
Well, so it was interesting. I had no idea when we started this that a Title I school has a lot of requirements in terms of keeping the students safe. You know, we don't really know what their living situation is like. And so we had background checks to go through, various different volunteer applications, creating these memorandum of understanding, where really a legal document that we needed to go through to make sure that we were meeting all of the requirements. And, the other part, doing it on Zoom, we were not able to request that the students turn on their cameras. And they actually did not turn on their cameras. So we met one of them briefly for a few seconds when he turned on his camera. But this whole thing was not knowing what they looked like. And it was really hard to present a after-school program and not be able to connect with them visually. But I will say they love to chat and text. So we did get a lot of interaction from them and made it quite special. But yeah, there's a lot of challenges working with a Title I school.
Absolutely. And based on your discussions of potential schools, what were some of the barriers that you faced trying to select your school and find that opportunity?
Well, so you can imagine, I mean, in the middle of a pandemic, some schools didn't even want to participate or had no idea how to even do an after-school program. So we were fortunate, Amy, that you actually introduced us to the principal at East Palo Alto Academy. So thank you so much for that. She was such a pleasure, and has some people in her family that do landscape design, and her husband's actually in the design industry. So she was the perfect fit for us.
That's great. And by the way, that wasn't my own question. It really did come through the chat. Now, Cindy, by teaching this course, was there anything that you found to be eye-opening from what you've learned? And if other firms were going to go out and do this, what advice would you give them?
Try to remember what it was like when you went to college, because not for nothing, to remember back to, I'm not going to say how many years ago for myself personally, but to remember back to what it was like to learn about the principles of design and design basics. I mean, defining a curriculum in 8 classes that would give enough knowledge to inspire and enough knowledge to create something. And that was our big challenge. I think the most important thing, or the thing that I would put out there for everyone to remember, is it was really about giving students an opportunity to express themselves, to do something a little different out of their regular day, and to get excited and inspired by something. And Lord knows that's what they did for us. We would leave every class just incredibly inspired by how excited they were about design, any kind of design.
It's great. How did others in your firm get involved in the project? And do you plan on continuing this project with East Palo Alto Academy or any other schools?
So a lot of involvement from API as a whole. So we had environmental graphics team of people putting together that wonderful presentation and all the graphics. We created all of that internally. We also had to come up with all the models for the restaurant and pull together, Revit models and plans, and also all the material choices and furniture choices. And then the industry helping us put together those swag bags. I mean, that was a lot of effort on our librarians' part to champion all of those people to help give a little bit. And yes, we would love to continue this after-school program. And yes, I think we have found a home at East Palo Alto Academy for sure. So when you do yours, find a different school.
The amount of time that you and your team put into this program is so apparent, and the amount of detail put into the curriculum, and having to do it virtual, which is always just challenging in and of itself. if we were to do it in person in the future, do you think that the school would have to incur some costs, such as keeping the school open late, paying program leaders, or what other concerns do you think a school may have by you coming in person?
I think there might be some cost involved in terms of having the school stay open and having a classroom available. We had a parent who was also a parent student liaison person that attended all of our sessions. So that person is a volunteer, so I don't know that they would incur costs, but I would encourage the school to have some liaison there to, also just remind the students and, email them and make sure that they are participating and checking in and, and helping them through the process. I don't know that there would be any other real costs to the school, however. Most schools actually do a lot of after-school programs. You'd be surprised how many they do.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Okay,
you mentioned that.
Cindy,
oh,
if
sorry,
I
go
can
ahead.
jump in really quickly, we're just getting a lot of questions about kind of the team structure that API held in place for different types of people and kind of a more diverse instructor programming that we've had. You can kind of speak a little bit to that, Cindy. I know that we have another team member who was not able to join us today, but any way you can address that.
Yeah, so Kine with API, she's now transferred over to Gensler, is a past teacher. So we were fortunate to have her as a part of the team and really help teach the program. And then we had Karen, who was our EGD liaison that managed everything. And we do try pretty hard at API to have some diversity. Though we are a lot of women, we have a lot of other diversity going on.
Thank you so much. And just so that people are aware, both Cindy and Kyng are both Asian American women of descent. And I know that API was very intentional in kind of crafting their team of leaders who would help run and host the program. I know that for future references and programs, there was a lot of discussion about bringing on speakers and subject matter experts of people from a diverse background. And I know that when the program really kicks off, that will be a huge cornerstone of how the program will continue to grow moving forward.
Definitely. Thank you, Albert.
Yeah.
I know you have a call to action for your fellow colleagues in the design community to go out and run this program for other schools. Cindy, what's some of the tools that you can recommend to them or resources to help them get started?
So we are happy to share the entire curriculum that we put together. Some of the documents are, 50, 60 pages for each class, but we are happy to share all of that curriculum with everyone. That is one of the reasons that we wanted to do this, was to really share that. And we're also happy to sit down with you and go through it all and give you pointers and tips to what we learned. And quite frankly, I think we'll probably change it up a little bit too the next time we do it. We learn a lot as we do each class.
What are some of the things that you can think of off the top of your head today that you would change up?
Well, for sure, I would do it in person.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I would love to have field trips and, have that tangible touch, feel opportunity with materials and furnishings, and also be able to introduce students to more of the design community that was a little difficult to do really more than one guest speaker. And I think introducing them to more people that can inspire them would be great.
Cindy, what was the age group of the candidates that you had in your sessions? And would you expand that reach or focus more on a certain grade?
So we had sophomore, junior, and seniors participate, which I thought was a great mix. And I think that although the senior that participated was probably definitely the most inspiring, mostly because he already knew where he wanted to go from a design standpoint. He was the one who was focused in landscape design and switched over to interior design. But he had already selected a college and was just going to switch up his major. But the sophomore and juniors actually, I think, they hadn't decided yet. So they were a wonderful target to help get them motivated to have a career in a creative field. I don't know that freshmen would be quite ready yet.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you. Might be a little bit overwhelming to them at that point, right? But as get a few years of high school under your belt and you're starting to think of what your future would look like.
Exactly.
Is there a plan to promote this in the future to IIDA or any other organizations to share this outside of our local community?
Well, actually, yes, we have submitted to IIDA for a Lemonade Award. And so fingers crossed, vote if you can.
You've got our support, Cindy. So I know that you had mentioned earlier that the students just love to interact via chat. And so I was wondering how you were able to integrate that in there. Was there a topic or a class that they really felt like they were more engaged in, or something that really stood out to you?
So they were all very inspired by light and color. So each time there was a discussion about color or light, they really lit up and wanted to know how different colors would impact how they would feel. These students are very in tune to environment and are very impacted by the environment that they are in. And one of the students actually commented, I think it was actually in the first session, that she wanted to know what colors to use for mental wellness. So it was very interesting how aware they were about mental health and sustainability. And I was quite surprised. It actually didn't take too much to get them talking. They were good. We were very lucky.
That's great, Cindy. For the students that just participated, or maybe more so the sophomores and juniors, do you foresee that maybe doing kind of a stage 2 or a progressive program to follow up with them?
Well, we did let them know that they could always reach out to us, that we would always be there for them from a mentoring standpoint. I think just tweaking the program a little bit and keeping up with it being more of an after-school program that would be available to anyone kind of in the beginning stages is really our focus at the moment.
And you had mentioned the potential of doing the internship, hopefully in your space. Tell us a little bit about that application process and what you're foreseeing this summer for these kids.
Yeah, so we have put the application out there. Each student has it. We've asked them to put together a little essay about why they would want to become an intern. We've got some time frames that we're looking at 2 days a week versus, every day, so that it allows them the time that they need to do other things. And we also find that we can work with that, hopefully with, returning to the office sooner than later. And we have not gotten the applications back yet. They are due next week.
Ooh, can't wait for you to keep us posted, Cindy.
I know.
So hopefully you'll be keeping us posted maybe on LinkedIn, or what other methods can we follow you on?
Yes, for sure. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, And also go to our website, and you can connect into our blog, and you can see this whole presentation. And of course, it's on One Workplaces as well.
It's going to be really fun to kind of start to track how these students do and what they choose down for their career path. So are there plans for future classes to be taught by A&D experts of color so that the students can ask questions about their experience? And are you thinking, this is a two-part question, are you also thinking about how mentorships could be developed out of this awesome initiative that you've created?
I would love for that to be the next thing I think about, yes, is from the mentorship standpoint, is how we can really develop that further. Mentorship is very personal to me. I love being able to be that for the people in our office. And I think that the students could absolutely benefit from that. So yes, I'm going to put that on my to-do list. And what was the first part of the question again?
Oh, okay, hold on. Well, I think it's a great thing to add. And I think we have so many resources out there in our market, right? That can help with that mentorship program. So as a mother to a high school student, I feel that is so important as they start to select their careers and hear from experts of what their experience has been. The first part of the question was, is there a plan to have future classes taught by A&D experts of color so that students can ask open questions about their experience?
Definitely, I would love to encourage that. We had reached out to some people to do some guest speaking topics because there are some wonderful designers and architects out there now that I think would bring that perspective to the program that would be wonderful. So yes, I highly encourage that. So for any of you out there that want to help with that, please reach out.
Absolutely. Cindy, as we're starting to close in on our time together, we had talked about the cost to the school, but can you tell us a little bit, or have you been able to quantify what that cost is to AP+I in terms of developing the curriculum, the marketing materials, the outreach?
I have not. I'm sure Carol would love to know what that dollar amount was, but I can say we used every dollar of the grant money. Thank you very much. And definitely quite a bit more, but I think a lot of the groundwork is done, and we were just quite grateful to be able to do this.
Yeah, and time, how about time? How would you say that?
It took a lot more time than I would have thought, actually. Because you develop a goal and a mission, and then you try to go through the tangible process of developing that curriculum, and then all the other stuff too, but developing the curriculum. And then you need to reevaluate as you go through that to make sure that you're really doing the right thing. What really is the goal? So just like in design, we have a design brief, we have a goal in the beginning, and to always remind yourself, what is the real goal? The goal was to inspire. That's it.
And it sounds like you did that for these kids in such a challenging year. So thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy and AP+I, for truly all the amazing work you've done. I know just from your feedback that the program you developed has really impacted these students in a really meaningful way, and I'm excited to see how it can continue to grow. I also wanted to thank all of you for joining our session. Just a reminder that the 2020 Wonder Grant presentation reporting, abstracts, and full research packages are available in the Wonder Grant section of the One Workplace website. And one last little tidbit, there are applications that are open for the 2021 application. They will be open through June 18th of this year, and we would love to hear from all of you and your amazing ideas.